Hi, my name is Donna and welcome to my kitchen. Today, I want to show you how I made these purple sweet potato sourdough loaves. And as you can see, I've done them two different ways, both in method and in how they were decorated. Also, I will be using my Hobart mixer in this tutorial, which is something new to me. I have mostly mixed my doughs by hand, but lately I've started using my mixer for larger batches. All right, well, we have a lot to do, so let's get started. The first thing that I'm going to do is make my leaven, and I do this the night before I want to make my bread. My leaven build takes 12 hours to peak at 74 degrees Fahrenheit. It's been 11 hours since I mixed my leaven. Time to autolyse. After weighing out all of my flours in water, I give everything a quick mix by hand both before and after adding my water. Note, I am not adding all of my water here. I always reserve 20 grams per loaf for bassinage. Okay, time for my stand mixer. I mix my dough for about a minute and a half on my Hobart and about 2 to 3 minutes on my Kenwood. I basically let it run until all the dry bits are gone and my dough looks cohesive. Now I clean off my dough hook and my mixer bowl walls. But most importantly, I carefully check underneath to make sure there are no dry bits hiding. Autolyse is done. We'll add my leaven in about an hour. Looks like my leaven has peaked. Time to mix my dough. I've tried out my scale and now I'm weighing out my leaven. Time for my mixer. I mix my dough for about 2 minutes on my Hobart and about 3 to 4 minutes on my Kenwood. See how shaggy my dough looks here? And now do you see the change and how smooth it is? Means I'm done mixing. Now I'm going to clean off my dough hook and do some stretch and folds in my bowl. You can see that I'm using my spatula to do my stretch and folds, but you can also do this with your hands if you prefer. My dough is now mixed. Now a 30-minute rest, and then it's time for bassinage. Time to add my salt and the last of my water. This technique is called bassinage, and it helps to strengthen and develop the gluten in your high hydration dough. I'm going to mix this with my Hobart for a couple of minutes, probably 3 to 4 minutes if I was using my Kenwood mixer. You can see here that my dough is tightening up. And now you can see it's all loose and stringy looking. Looks really weird, I know, but don't worry, it'll come back together pretty quickly. It's looking pretty good here, so time to stop. I don't want to overmix this. Now I'll clean off my dough hook and do some stretch and folds. I like to finish by hand so that I can feel my dough. This helps tell me what stage my dough is at. I don't know about you, but it's really hard for me to tell how my dough is doing when I can't feel it. So, how do I know when I'm done my stretch and folds? Well, even though we should be paying close attention to what our dough looks like, we should also be paying very close attention to what it sounds like. Listen very closely to my stretch and folds here. And look at the texture of my dough. Are you noticing any changes? You can see that my dough is starting to look more pillowy, and you can hear it sound more squelchy as I do my stretch and folds. It's getting stronger, and you can hear it sticking and grabbing the walls of my bowl. Almost there. Phew. Building gluten strength is seriously hard work. My dough is now completely mixed. I'll leave this to rest for 30 minutes and then more stretch and folds. Time for more stretch and folds. Just like before, I'll keep this up until I can both see and hear my dough change. I want it to be nice and pillowy. Now this dough will rest for 30 minutes. After that, I'll split my dough into two as this is a double batch, and then it's time for lamination. Time to split my dough. I'm making 2 different sweet potato loaves today, so I'm going to divide this dough in half, and then I'm going to split one of the halves into 2 as I'm going for 2 different looks for my loaves. I'll be adding roasted and mashed purple sweet potato to both of the loaves I'm making today, but I'll be adding it in at different times using different methods. To avoid any confusion, I'll call them loaf 1 and loaf 2. For loaf 1, purple sweet potato will be laminated throughout the dough. This loaf will be uniform in color. For loaf 2, the dough will be halved, purple sweet potato will be mixed into one of the halves, and then both doughs will be laminated together. This loaf will look marbled. Alright, here's loaf number 1. I'm going to take you through all the stages, from lamination to baking off my loaf. And then I'll do the same for loaf number 2. I'll also post another video or 2 showing the artistic painting and scoring processes of these loaves. So if you're interested, keep a lookout for them. Here we go, starting lamination. Time to set up my aliquot. I love my aliquot. Do you use one? If not, I highly recommend that you do. It takes the guesswork out of knowing when you are finished bulk fermentation. My dough is laminated. Now a 45-minute rest and then 4 sets of coil folds. After this last coil fold, my dough will rest until my aliquot shows a 60% rise, and then I'll shape my loaf. I see a 60% rise, so it's time to shape my loaf. My dough is shaped. Now into the fridge for a cold overnight rest, and I'll bake this loaf off in about 12 to 14 hours. This loaf will be baked in a covered cast iron pan that has been preheated at 500 degrees. Once I load my dough, I'll lower my oven temperature to 475 and bake for 20 minutes. Then I'll remove the cover, lower the temperature to 450, and bake for an additional 15 to 20 minutes or until I reach an internal temperature of 210 degrees. Remember that I divided my dough for loaf number 2? Well, I'm going to do a coil fold to one of the portions, and then I'm going to mix some purple sweet potato into the other. This dough looks pretty mixed. Now time for some stretch and folds. My dough is starting to look and sound so good. Now a quick coil fold to finish this off. And now it's time to set up my aliquot for loaf number 2. Now a 45-minute rest. Then I'll laminate these doughs together and finish them off with 3 sets of coil folds. Time to combine these doughs and get them laminated together. Time for a 45-minute rest and then some coil folds. Looks like a 60% rise to me. Time to shape. Loaf number 2 is shaped. Now into the fridge for a cold overnight rest to be baked in about 12 to 14 hours. Thanks for watching, and please like and subscribe.